Hello everybody. Today we are doing some harmonic dictation practice. We're looking at the sixth chord as predominance. Okay, what I mean by that is we've had the sixth chord before in major and in minor, but we've typically seen them in deceptive contexts. So at the end of a phrase, usually following 5 as kind of a substitute for 1. We're going to talk this week about putting 6 in the middle of progressions or near the beginning. Okay, so there's kind of two ways that we can see 6. Okay. So, as I said, previously seen them in a deceptive context, and that's because they work because of their tonic similarities. So, for instance, if we're in the key of C, there's two common tones between the 1 chord and the 6 chord, right? So it works well. We're going to do, right? They're very similar. However, the 6th chord can also function as a predominant chord. So it can be tonic expansion at the beginning, something like this. Where the second chord I played was a 6th chord. 1, 6, and then 2, and then 5, and then 1, right? So it can kind of expand your tonic, so it's the same notes stay the same, right? Right? Or we could have it as a predominant in the middle of a progression. Okay, so you might have what seems like a deceptive cadence, but in the middle, so something kind of like this. Right, where right in the middle I stuck a 6th chord. In either case, it usually precedes 2 or 4. Okay, so for instance, something like this. Right, so that was 1, 6, 2, or in this case, right? Because there's there's common tones that keep the progression smooth, especially with 4, 6, and 4 are separated by only a single note, right? And so on. So the 6th chord is really versatile as a predominant chord as well. So let's go ahead and start off by looking at an example. Okay. What are some observations you can make here? I mean, you've been given an analysis, so you see where 6 is, okay? Right? Right? You've got the 6th chord in the 2nd position, so would this be kind of a predominant or more of a tonic expansion 6, okay? What's happening here is we've got, of course, a half cadence. The 1st chord is tonic, of course. Right? We've got tonic expansion because notice how our soprano and our tenor stay the same. Right? Then we've got a 4 chord, okay, which we just talked about. Right? The 4 chord itself is expanded, so we've got what we call predominant expansion. Right? And then finally our dominant chord. And then that would resolve, of course, to, pardon me, played the wrong note in the bass there. So that's the general kind of, this is a pretty common context to see 6. Remember, 6 almost always precedes 4 or 2. In this case, we've got both 4 and 2. So you've got our tonic area, our predominant area, and our dominant area. All we're missing is our resolution back to our original tonic, okay? But we don't have that because, of course, it's a half cadence. So this is the kind of context that we can see 6 in now. So what you want to listen for is you want to hear do and mi still, right? Or pardon me, I'll do it here. You want to still hear do and mi, but you want to hear sol moving to la, right? Right? That's the difference between 1 and 6 in this kind of context, okay? When we're going from 6 to 4, so if you hear your 4 chord, you want to hear that one note change, right? That's the difference there. I would say that 6 to 2 is possibly the hardest, but what we want to listen for in a 6 to 2 motion is listen to what's happening in your bass. So if you hear re in your bass, and you hear a minor chord preceding that, that will help narrow it down, okay? So, we know what 6 sounds like in minor as well. So we're going to go ahead and do examples. I've got 2 dictations for us to do today. One of them is going to be in minor, and one of them is going to be in major. Okay, so we'll get some examples of 6 in our new contexts in both minor and major regions. So, here we go. Speaking of minor, 5 chords. I'm going to give you 4 listens for this one, okay? C minor. Okay, that was 1, 4, 1, 5, 7, 1, okay? Your first chord's in here. Okay? I'm going to give you 4 listens. 4 listens. What I'm going to do, because I know that this is a little bit trickier than if it were live with a keyboard, or with an actual piano. I'm going to go ahead and play the first 2 listens as normal. The third listen, I'm going to roll every chord, but all the voices will still be there. And then on your final listen, I'm going to go ahead and play it all normal again. Okay? So here we go. Okay? There's your first chord. So 5 chords, 4 listens. So you've got 4 listens to figure out 4 more chords. Ready? Here we go. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do listen 2 of 4. I'm going to try my best to really bring out the bass, because I have a feeling that bass is getting lost. In any case, here's your first chord again. Okay? Okay, ready? So remember that 6 is major in a minor key. So that might be kind of a clue as to what you should be listening for, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's do listen 3 of 4. And I'm going a little bit quickly through this, but we've already seen 6 before, so hopefully it's going to be a relatively easy shift to move 6 from the end of progressions to the middle of progressions, especially since we've worked with identifying its solfege and hearing for its quality, so hopefully this isn't too steep of a learning curve. Remember that for the third listen, I'm going to go ahead and roll the chords for you, so hopefully it'll be easier to hear soprano and bass more clearly if you haven't before. So I'm going to roll them top to bottom, kind of like this. Every chord like that, okay? So here we go. Listen 3 of 4. We're at the halfway point. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, go ahead and take 30 seconds before our last listen. Take 30 seconds. Okay, so this is our fourth and final listen. I'm going to play all the chords normally, okay? Oh, a little bit of a wrong note there. Okay, here we go. So, 5 chords, fourth and final listen. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. and finish up your thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this one, okay? So, the second chord right out the gate is a 6 chord, okay? So, hopefully the giveaway for that was that your right hand voices stay the same, right? You go from a minor chord to a major chord, and in addition, you've got octaves in the left hand voices, in the bass and the tenor. So hopefully, no problem. Hopefully that was pretty straightforward defined. Okay, the third chord is the trickiest, I think, because we go down to a 2/6. But if you can hear the bass will give you some clue to that, right? Because we have our fa, sol, do, and we have re in the soprano. So if you can hear that fa in the bass and re in the soprano, you'll be able to narrow down that it's a 2 diminished relatively quickly, I think. Right? Okay, and then finally we go to octaves in the left hand. We got a big old tritone, fa and ti in the right hand. And then we end on the same chord that we began on. So this one's, I think, pretty straightforward. This is about as straightforward as a minor progression with major 6, okay, can be. So hopefully that went well for you. If not, I would recommend doing some more practice with the gamut, or, as always, I'm happy to do anything over Zoom with you. So let's go ahead and do one more dictation for today. One more melodic dictation, because you've done a lot this week already. This next one, same deal, 5 chords, 4 listens. This one's in D major, okay? Okay, so we're in D major. Your first chord is spelled like this. Okay? So, 4 listens. I'm going to do the same thing. We're on the 3rd listen. I'll roll the chords for you. It's a handicap because of the technology situation. Okay? So, okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's do listen 2. Okay. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we're at the halfway point. Let's go ahead and do listen 3 of 4, but I'm going to go ahead and roll the chords for you. Okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's go ahead and do our final listen. This is 4 of 4. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Finish up your final thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this. So, this one, first of all, we don't end on 1, we end on a half cadence, right? Right? We have a pretty clear descending soprano, right? 6 is in the middle, okay? So what's tricky to hear for this one is that we do have this kind of, it's almost Pachelbel-esque, right? So we've got kind of our 5, 6 in the middle, our kind of quasi-deceptive cadence sound in the middle, but then, as expected, we go from 6 to 2, and then to 5, with no 7th, just 5. It's not this, okay, just 5. We have a 2, 6, right? So we have our 4, our fa sol. We just don't get to the final do, right? What also might make this one a little bit harder or potentially easier is that we do have some voice doublings here. So notice how on our 6 chord, bass and tenor are doubled, right? And in our 2 chord, our tenor and alto are doubled, right? So when I rolled the chords, I tried to accent that, right? So that's why I did that. But in any case, yeah, hopefully that one was not too bad. The bass is the hardest, I think, in this case because it ascends so high. You know, it doesn't, and it's so high and it's so close to the tenor, it can be easy to lose, right? Also, my keyboard's not super great in any case. So hopefully the rolling helped fix the bass issues there. So, in any case, that's it for today for dictation. Let's talk about things to practice and what to do next time. So, work on hearing the differences between 2 and 4 and 1 and 6, right? In both major and minor. So 2 and 4 are similar. Remember, we're listening for re. And 1 and 6 are really similar. In that case, we're listening for la. Okay? So try to practice that, whether it's at a keyboard or using a keyboard app or on your own instrument or using Megamit. So we've already had our first Megamit summit that was due today. You can practice more dictations on Megamit. The practice function is quite great in that regard, and it doesn't keep track of how much you practice or any errors, so you don't have to worry about me seeing any of that stuff. Next week, we're moving on to chapter 12, or probably continuing with chapter 12, so we're going to get to the second half of that for the melodies. And then for harmonic dictation, we're going to be adding sevenths to our 2 chords in major and in minor and inverting them. So next week's a big week for that. Week 4... Pardon me, that is week 4. There'll be more midterm details for you in week 5. Okay, so don't worry about that. We'll have more midterm details then. And then your homework should be posted to Gotcha Space right now. Okay, so, oh no, this isn't week 4, this is week, sorry, I'm recording these all in advance. So, in any case, this is week 3. Next week is week 4. We'll be doing sevenths to our 2 chords in major and minor, and then we'll be pushing on to the end of the quarter. At the end of the quarter, we're going to have all possibilities for all diatonic chords in major and minor and an inversion, okay? So that'll get us all the way to the end so that way then in the fall we can pick up and start doing things like secondary dominance and modulations and fun stuff like that. So that's it for this week. Hopefully things are going well. If not, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to set up office hours with you. If you have any questions about the homework, just let me know. And if you have any questions about Megamit, just let me know. So that is it for today. And with that, I will see all of you next time.